Good afternoon, we are now live.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar titled Driving Business Value and Sustainability with the FTTH Eco Platform. My name is Sofia, and I'm the ESG specialist of the FTTH Council Europe, and I'm very happy to welcome you in this webinar session. The topic we're bringing today comes directly from the Sustainability Committee at the FTTH Council, that we are launching a new program called the FTTH Eco Platform that we would like to introduce you to. While I see many of you still joining the call, I will take a few minutes to go through a couple of items before I formally introduce you to our panelists. So I just wanted to give you a brief introduction about our organization. And so for those who are not yet familiar with our association, we are a pan-European trade association that regroups more than 160 companies all involved in the FTTH value chain. Our goal, our mission, our objective is to promote FTTH network as the most sustainable and future-proof technology to bring connectivity to everyone and everywhere in Europe. And for that objective, we are developing context, we are commissioning market studies, we are organizing events, and this series of webinars as part of what we do. We try to bring value for our members and also to the larger ecosystems directly connected to the FTTH value chain. So you will also see that what we do on sustainability is directly connected with this mission. More info of the Council can also be found online on our website. So today we are in a session which is also part of a series of webinars which cover a variety of topics on technology and market, but also, as is the case of today, about sustainability. Before I introduce to the panelists, I also wanted to add that this session is recorded and the recording will also be shared to all of you after this session. You can also find this slide deck that we presented, and you will also be able to access that as this presentation as a replay. It will be sent via email communication to all those who attended and also those who registered initially. You can also ask questions using the dedicated function on this platform. We do not take live questions. What I mean is that you cannot express yourself verbally, but you can type your questions, and we have reserved 10 minutes at the end of this session to address them. So don't hesitate to ask questions even during the session. And if we cannot take them during this hour, we will follow up and make sure you get an answer to your questions. So now that that's out of the way, I can, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our panelists. So I'm pleased to have today with me Paul Minot, who represents Tuvalu, our consulting partner for this project. I also have with me Joren Kanzler, who is in charge of ESG at Eurofiber, and also the chair of the Sustainability Committee here at the FTTH Council. And also, last but not least, we have Javier Renalt here with us, who works for ACON and is also a board member of the FTTH Council and has also been an essential driver for this project around the measurement of the carbon footprint. So before we get started, I wanted to start this session with a question. So I'm gonna now launch the poll. The question is, what is your company current level of carbon emission reporting? You can see the poll coming out now. And while you're all answering, I also wanted to add that this session we will cover 4 main topics. First, we look at how this initiative aligns with the regulatory requirements and also the growing expectations of customers and investors. And next, we'll also explore how sustainability can be turned into business value. And then we'll introduce the FTTH Eco Platform initiative and explain how it can help your organization in the accounting of your carbon reporting. Now I see lots of you voting. I see that it's very the vote it's pretty much as we expected, more or less. I'll just give you another couple of seconds for all of you to vote, and then I will release the vote now. Perfect. Okay, I see now. You can all see the vote and see that yeah, pretty much it's what we saw, what we expected, and then maybe Joren can go more in depth into what these numbers also mean for the industries and for other industries as well. Thank you for voting. And now, without further ado, I will give the floor to Joren.
Yes, good afternoon all, also from my side. And I will help you with a little bit more high level. How is regulatory and stakeholders working on your ESG report, and of course focusing on greenhouse gas emissions, because that is also part of an important part of the Eco Platform. To be honest, Sophia, I couldn't see the outcomes of the of the poll on my screen, but that will come later on. First, focusing on regulatory, maybe until a few years ago, ESG reporting and reporting on your carbon emissions, it was nice to have, but at this moment it is a need to have, because you see that regulatory, and of course, like mentioned here, the CSRD, the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, is an important one in that. And that means that during your complete value chain, you need more information, and you need to deliver more information to your customers, but also to your suppliers and all the partners in the value chain. What you see on this slide and also on the next slides are the outcomes of a survey of Deloitte done worldwide, in this case on several companies, and they have some questions about how are you reporting on sustainability in this case, and this focus on the same questions as in the poll. In this case, if you look at this, you see how are companies at this moment, in this case in July 2024, reporting on carbon emissions. And you see, I focus a little bit on the telecommunication sector, because probably most of the participants are member of that supply chain. Then we see that a lot of companies are already reporting on scope 1, also on scope 2, but you see that less, in this case 16%, is reporting on scope 3. But for the regulatory, like CSRD, but all the questions of suppliers and every companies who are working on science-based target initiative and net zero journeys, you need more information of your supply chain, so also scope 3. So it's getting more and more important and necessary to calculate your scope 3. So that is related to, if you look at scope 3. So I couldn't see the outcomes of the poll in this case on my screen, but probably it will be a little bit like this. It will
I
be
don't
in
know if you
line.
can see them now, Joren, but
No, so
I'm just
maybe you can
gonna
say
exactly.
the
I'm
relation
just gonna
between the
give
outcomes.
you the polls, the results myself. We have 29% of our voters, of our attendees, said that they have a comprehensive reporting methodology. They report on scope 1, 2, and 3. 36% partial. They report on scope 1 and 2. But not scope 3. 40% it's limited, they only track some emissions, and 21% of our audience today has not yet started to measure their emissions.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Sophia, for the outcomes of this poll. So yeah, I think a little bit aligned with the outcomes of the worldwide survey in this case, and we see a lot of companies still not reporting on Scope 3. So the good news is you're in the right webinar to learn about that and to get more information about the tool we have for this. So if you look at the mandatory, so the regulation, but then also we have on the next slide, we have the stakeholders. If you look, all right, what will be the pressure to report? And like I mentioned, it's getting more and more important for your value chain and also this for your customers. If you look here at again at the telecom, focusing on the telecom sector, then you will see that 40% of the pressure to report on your ESG is of customers. So more and more customers, and that will be the coming year, will be going stronger. They will ask you on more and more information, more data, and also the data of your carbon emissions of your product, but also of your complete organization. So that is why you can have benefits of, in this case, the application we developed as FTTH Council with the Eco Platform. But then you now know you need to report for regulatory and for your stakeholders, but then you have some challenges. And that is what we see on the next slide from the outcomes from the survey. And I think this is also the same we see with members of the FTTH Council and the talks we have as a sustainability committee of the council. The data quality and also the way of data collection is still difficult. So the most challenging two topics from out the survey are the data quality and the data collection. Now you can see that data collection, 88% of the companies is struggling with the data collection they have. So it's because you're part of a supply chain, yeah, you need to get your upstream and downstream connections to collaborate to get the information you need in this case. So yeah, that is the way now a lot of companies think, all right, what can I do on this to collect those data and to have a data with a quality which is good enough to report on and is trustful enough. That's also an important thing. So we see that the upcoming is that there are getting more and more tools, and we also see companies are interested in the tools. So if you look at the outcomes of the survey on the next tools, also related, of course, to this webinar. You see at this moment in 2024, it has decreased a little bit regarding to 2020, but probably some people already invest in tools. But you see it's still 74% of the interviewed companies or who participate in the survey of Deloitte globally, they say, all right, we are likelihood or very likelihood to invest in one of the tools we need to calculate our carbon emissions and also to report on ESG. So that is also one of the reasons as FTTH Council, we say, right, we need to help not only our members, but also other members of, other companies in the sector or out sector to help, in this case, with the Eco Platform, to help with calculating in the tool. The data quality will be guaranteed and also the way and the easy to do that. And that is my first part, more high level of the outcomes of worldwide survey in this case. And now Xavier will do a more deep dive in what does this mean if you look at the Eco Platform and how can it help you as a company to fulfill all these requirements and all these challenges in this case. So Xavier, go ahead, please.
So happy to be here. Good afternoon to everyone. Happy to discuss about sustainability and how it can drive business value. Following what Jeroen was explaining, I would like also to show that the main telecom operators so far already reported their decarbonization trajectory through SBTi. So what is SBTi? It's a corporate organization created in 2015 in the context of the COP21 to provide targets in reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions and targeting net zero in 2050. What we can see here is that the main telecom operators, they have more ambitions because they want to target net zero in 2040. And if we look at their efforts, so they want to decrease between 80 and 90% their scope 1 and 2 by 2030. and by between 40 and 50% their Scope 3 by 2030. So it's quite ambitious. And if you are quite familiar with what is the Scope 3, you know first that's the biggest part. And for the operators, a large part of this Scope 3 is coming from their supply chain. So it means coming from the vendors and the contractors. So today, the question that is becoming the norm in any tender is, what is your company trajectory and how does it contribute to my targets? Just to give an example of my own company, and we are working with some of these operators, they are asking us to reduce by 2% per year the carbon footprint of our products. So it's already ongoing, and as it is already engaged, the time will come that you could even not participate in a tender if you cannot show your trajectory and your results. So what then would you need to do? On the next slide, first you need to make obviously your own assessment. Without measure, you cannot improve, obviously. So you need to make your initial measurement so that you can identify your low-hanging fruits and your main battles that will lead you to build your first decarbonation plan. Engage the whole company, because this is not something that you can do alone. This is something that you need to do collectively, and at last to be recognized, for example, like being recognized by SBTi. So you will have short-term actions under your direct influence. For example, Scope 1 or 2 would be to change your electricity mix, or to get power purchase agreements, for example. And you will have also midterm actions, and for some of them you will also need your own suppliers. You need to embark them, because again, the Scope 3 is the biggest part, and the purchase goods inside the Scope 3 will be probably the biggest part. So the second thing will be to help your supply chain to do the same as you do. Define the targets, monitor what they do, but to do this, you need first to get a minimum level of maturity, of understanding and resources to do it. And I will come back on this later on. And I would say the third, you need also to work on your future offers, because to keep them attractive for the same reasons I explained before, you will need to demonstrate carbon savings. So you need to focus your R&D on development on those topics. And how will you do? And I come back to my first point. When you will do your assessment, you will also see where you need to work on. So that will help you for sure. The good news is that, well, as the economy being carbonized, your carbon economy will also probably lead to euro savings. It's not all the time true, but usually that is true. So it also means that it makes things easier for adoption when it's also less expensive. And also, what is very important when you are in this part of thinking what will be your future products is to define what is the needed effort you need to put in this. And this is also where the FTTH Eco Platform can help you, either because it can help you to make your initial assessment and build your plan. It can also embark your own suppliers, because that program is open to any companies, not only the members of the FTTH Council. So you can also embark your own suppliers in this journey. And we will see later on, but through this platform, we also provide benchmark that will help you to figure out whether you are late or you need to accelerate. So what is the FTTH Eco Platform now? That's a sector initiative that aims to support any organization from the fiber value chain to assess and decrease its carbon footprint, as Guillaume was mentioning, to comply with ESG obligations, and at the same time to accelerate the fiber sector decarbonization. The way it is built, the platform, is that any organization, whatever its maturity level, can benefit of it. It offers different levels of services with a step-by-step approach. For the first one, which is called the standard service, is to discover what it is about, what are at stakes, and also to get access to the database. The second one, if I want to go more in the details, second one is about the basic service, what we call it's to learn how it works. So there is an academy, and Paul will also speak about. So we have an exclusive partnership with Tuvalu. So the academy is actually a few sessions online in which we explain what it is about, how it works, and how you as a company you can embark in this. And the last level is the advanced service, is to act, is to transform all this into actions and make your own assessment, build your plan, and start to decrease your carbon emissions. What is interesting is that when you will be ready and you will go through the last phase, meaning to act, at that time, you will also provide your data, so they will be anonymized, but they will also contribute to enrich the sector database that will be useful for you, but also for the community. So in this first level of service, which is discover, we have a private LinkedIn group. So it's a discussion between peers. So it means that we can create discussions around a specific topic. So I was discussing with some of you a few days ago. So when we have different people coming from the same type of business, and there is a specific question, we can open such a question in such private discussions. And second is to get access to the reports and to the sector database. So that will be very useful, as I was telling, to benchmark your own activity, to see whether you need to put more effort or not. So there are two main kinds of deliverables. I will explain them later on. Second level of service, Sophia. Then I was telling you about this learn. So we offer with Tuvalu, and Paul will give you more words about this. So a platform in which you will be taught about this. So what is the GHG protocol? How can we convert physical flows into carbon emissions, and how altogether in the end, by having a structure behind, it will lead you to have your corporate assessment. Then there is the software. Tuvalu and Paul will also discuss about this. We have this exclusive partnership with them. So they have quite a very long experience in this. So I will let Paul later on to come back on this, because the final goal of this is to be in position to make your assessment. And for this, what we have seen, because most of you know that we have made a pilot before we create that program, and it was clear that we were needing like a collective sessions to share a lot of things that are not confidential. But when you make things very concrete and you have very specific questions that you don't want anyone to know about, then you need to have a dedicated consultancy, and this is also provided in this program. So next, about the main two deliverables. So first, there is the sector database. So to be quick, either you can share your life cycle assessment of your products. That would be great. Then we anonymize your data, and we put all them together, and behind we created a model in which we can convert your CO2 per unit into CO2 per household. If you cannot share if you don't have any LCA data, then what we do is that you can share your corporate assessment through a tool that we call the carbon intensity tool, and your data will be converted into a CO2 per household. By adding all the carbon emissions per household for each product or service, we can calculate in the end the emission of the sector per household. So this is what we called in the previous slide the sector observatory. And now, when we come to the tool, this carbon intensity tool, so how it works to convert your corporate assessment into a product intensity? Well, it's quite simple. It's an Excel sheet. We send you the Excel sheet with all the formulas inside. There are two parts in this Excel sheet. First part, you fill in your values of your corporate assessment. In part two, you fill in the number of your sold products, and the tool is simply making the division between both so that we have somehow a carbon footprint. So we know that it's somehow, that cannot be a precise life cycle assessment, but in our database, if we don't have any data coming from life cycle assessment, it's better to have data coming from this than nothing. So we will update and upgrade continuously our database, and little by little, hopefully, we'll have 100% of LCAs inside. Once we have this, we use our model again to convert CO2 per unit into CO2 per household, coming back to the sector observatory I was dealing about before. And on your side, when you have this tool, and this tool is providing back, again, it's an Excel sheet, the two last figures on the right side, which is CO2 per household. So you have only to share those figures back to the FTTH Council team. So meaning that all the rest is fully confidential. And it was key for us that we have as well a tool that enables to keep confidentiality of everything we do. So I think that was it. Now I'll leave the floor to Paul to go more in the details of what is the Academy and the tool, the software tool.
Thank you, Xavier. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Paul. I'm Business Development Manager at Tuvalu. And so following this presentation, I'm here to talk more in details about who we are and the service we provide in this partnership with the FTTH Council that we are really happy to have. So first, just to introduce you on Tuvalu, who we are. So we were created in 2012. So we already have a bit more than 12 years of experience, which makes us one of the pioneers of climate and CSR in Europe. We are a French company, as you can hear from my accent, and yes, we are. Our mission is to put the impact at the core of your strategies. We want to maximize your positive impact. And so we put this mission for our customers, but also for ourselves. We are certified B Corp. We are a certified company with a mission, and we keep on working on this impact. On the next slide, I just wanted to show you a few figures. So at Tuvalu, we are 37 employees. We measure a bit more than 45 million tons of CO2 per year, and we work with a bit more than 300 customers across the globe, mostly in Europe, but also elsewhere. We work with 20 official partners, which are experts who help us, provide you the best support, specifically with depending on your industry, your problematics. And we also have a team of 5 PhDs and PhD students. So this is a research and development team, very useful to also support you and help you if you have very specific issues, very specific topics. We can also develop specific solutions that are tailor-made for our clients and for you. So this was, a few words. So you know who we are. Now I will develop a bit more what Xavier talked about, before. I'm talking about the program that we created in partnership with the FTTH Council. So the first part of this program is the Academy. The academy, as Xavier mentioned, it's a collective training. So you will be with your peers. This is a program that lasts for more or less 3 months and 4 sessions. In these sessions, we will take you from the very beginning of a carbon footprint assessment, raising awareness, talking about data collection, and then we will follow the steps. So the session 3, for example, will be on analysis, so analyzing your results. Session 4 will be on communicating your carbon footprint and looking at first levels for reduction and action, because this is what it's all about. Calculating your carbon footprint is just step 1. What it's really all about is about reducing it. And we'll also have an additional session on software training. So the objective of this academy is getting you to know very well how a carbon footprint assessment works. So you will be, at the end of this academy, you'll be very familiar with what kind of data you have to collect, how does it work, what is the methodology. So you can attend this academy. Oh, I think I lost you guys. Can everybody hear me? Yeah, okay, perfect. So you can attend this academy if you want to know more. The second step of the program is to work with our software and our support. This is if you want to calculate your carbon footprint. So our software, created 12 years ago. So we tested it many times. It's a robust software. How can it help you? At first, it will help you to carry out a rigorous carbon audit to take concrete action. So all the data will be centralized in the platform, which makes the data collection more easy. So no more Excel sheets, no more data, no more files through emails on the drives. Everything is centralized on the platform. You can import and export data super easily. So basically, our software helps you gain precision and relevance. Everything is 100% customized for you. Moreover, it will help you to understand your carbon footprint. You will be able to analyze it, to really deep dive into it, split by your business unit, your sites. If you want to check, okay, so how much emissions come from my factory and how much comes from my warehouse and how much comes from my offices, you'll be able to analyze all this and really understand what your carbon footprint is made of, which is super important to go to step 2, which is reducing it. And that's perfect software. Thank you. That's what also our software helps you to do. It will help you to set an appropriate trajectory and reduction targets. So the first step for this is to set objectives. How much do I want to reduce my carbon emissions? Xavier showed us just before, an example with a few providers like Orange, who decided that they wanted to reduce their scope 3 by 43%. So we will also help you, to set these objectives, and then you'll be able to follow these objectives in the tool and to create an action plan. So you will write all your actions, your reduction actions, and the tool helps you to quantify how much CO2 will be reduced thanks to each action, and to see the impact of your action plan on your climate trajectory. So basically, what we offer here is to help you collecting the data, calculating the carbon footprint, scope 1, 2, and 3, obviously, and then acting on it, so you can really start to have a comprehensive and complete strategy concerning your carbon emissions. So basically, to conclude on our software, it's simple and ergonomic. The goal is really to make your data collection easier and more reliable. Everything is 100% customized, so you don't have to fit in our model. We fit the tool to your model. It helps you better manage your strategies, your objectives, your action plan. And overall, it's well suited for complex and multi-site organizations. We have a lot of customers who come from the industrial sector, because our tool is really relevant for companies like this, and so for companies like I imagine most of you work in. And that's it. That's it for my part.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody. That was a great intervention with everyone. So now, before we move into the questions, I wanted to launch another poll. Do you see the need for a tool to measure and report your carbon footprint now? So we wanted to see, now we learned at first that how many of you are reporting already and what are you reporting. Now we wanted to learn whether there is some of you who are now interested in investing in a tool to measure and report the carbon footprint, or what if you already do that. So let me launch the poll. Okay, the poll is launched. Perfect. Now, while you're all answering, I think we're gonna start with some questions that I have received. So, for example, I have one here for Xavier. In the meantime, remember to ask your questions through the dedicated button in the webinar tool. So, Xavier, how do you see investments in sustainability versus cost saving and customer rewards? That is a question from Christoph. He wants to ask you, how do you see investments in sustainability versus cost savings and customer rewards?
Yeah, so not sure to fully understand the question because there are different ways to answer. Because there is something which is, as an industrial company, is not always obvious, because we need to invest, we need to put some R&D efforts to put on the market new products. And so far it can be difficult to be recognized having this lower carbon footprint, because at some point the price can be still very competing. So I don't know whether this question is behind, but what we see is that for me, economy and sustainability goes together first. And for me is to continue to have the right to play. So your products and your offer need to be less and less carbonized, because otherwise one day you will not be able to play any longer. So I don't know if it was the right answer or the right question.
Yeah, I think it answered that, Christoph. If you want to know more about that, you can ask another questions, and we'll make sure to answer you. So going back to the poll, we've received a lot of results. Actually, I'm gonna share those with you. Can you see the results?
Yeah, I can now see the results of it.
Perfect.
So thank you very much. So I think it's a little bit similar to the outcomes of the survey of Deloitte in this case. It was a little bit more, if you look at it was likely and the categorical somewhat likely, that was in total 75%. But if I look here at our poll, I see that if you calculate yes and maybe in this case, so the above, then we are at 50%. So I still a lot of people who wants to use a tool in this case to calculate the carbon footprint, but also to measure it and to report on it. I think that is the most important thing. And also, if you look at the last answer, there's still 12% of the participants who say, all right, we want more information to know, or it's a necessary thing. And of course, we have a lot of information after this webinar. You will receive all kinds of information of the slides, of course, but also the white paper, and you can reach out to us on an email. Maybe one thing to add is that it's possible, not related to the poll question, but maybe the reason for the Eco Platform. It will help you to measure, report, and calculate a little bit the same, of your carbon footprint. If you use the software application of Tuvalu, it's done automatically, not automatically, but it will be automatically reported in the database of the Eco Platform. But another important thing and reason we developed this as an sustainability committee of the council is that now we have the opportunity to do the extrapolation as a sector of Europe. So we can discuss in the policymakers in Brussels, I always say, of the European Commission, we have the availability to say, all right, we're on, as a sector in Europe, we are on the way to net zero in this case. And we can show them the figures in this case of how we are working on that. And that is something that is really unique. On behalf of the council, I'm also participating in global products of the International Telecommunication Union, and went to a COP28 and COP29 and discussed with the people over there. But there are some sector initiatives, but not this kind of sector initiative. So that's also a very important thing. You're not helping your own company and also the value chain you're in, but you're also helping, if you remember, in this case of the fiber sector and the fixed fiber sector, then you will also help the complete sector. And this is important for discussions like EU taxonomy, CSRD, and all that kinds of things. So there's also a reason, I would say, to join this, not only for yourself, but also to help the complete sector in Europe in this case.
I agree, Horen. And also, just about what you said, we have a question related to it. Analyst asked, what impact do you think that yesterday's announcement on the EEC omnibus package, which scales back the sustainability reporting, the CSRD, what is the impact for businesses across Europe, basically, will have on companies' appetite to put resources into emissions measurements and reporting? This is what we were discussing as well, and I think Horen, Paul, Xavier, you can all take that, and we can discuss this very interesting topic as well.
Yeah, I think CSRD is, of course, a very important mandatory regulation, and probably there will be some developments, or there are already development, but only at proposals and not at the officials. But I think if you look at the first slide presented by Xavier, you see all at the end of the supply chain, and in this case not the customers, but the operators. There were 4 or 5 large telecom operators on the slide of Xavier. They all have SBTi targets. So that means that if there is no CSRD, they still want to have all the carbon emissions in their supply chain because they are working on decarbonization plans, becoming net zero, and if you look at the carbon footprint at this moment of that kind of companies, but also of Acom or for Eurofiber, 98% of the carbon emissions is related to scope 3. So that means that you have to get your information down and upstream in your value chain. So besides the CSRD, there will be more need for data, and your suppliers and your customers, clients, will ask for more information. So that's not related to the mandatory of CSRD, for example. That's already going on in this case.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. For me, it's not a question of the direction. The direction to decarbonize is set, and nothing will change. For me, the question is a question of speed. So, okay, there might be, and it's not fully clear. And maybe Paul, you can elaborate even more on this afterwards. But it's not fully clear what is going to happen on this. But something is sure that one day you will need to decarbonize, and when you start digging into that topic, you see how difficult it is, because the 10 or 10th or 21st% would be quite okay to reach, but the next one will be very difficult. So if you not start very early, that will be very difficult to reach the line of 2040. So for me, it's not the question of the direction, it's the question of speed, and then it's your own decision, but there is always behind the risk that at some point you will lose some competitiveness.
Yes, thank you, Xavier. Paul. Go ahead.
Maybe just to elaborate on that, to give some information, because I know it can seem a bit difficult and unclear. So just to clarify, so the omnibus, which is the decision of the European Commission we had yesterday, is just a proposal. So far, really nothing changes. Like until the omnibus is fully negotiated, fully approved, and transposed into each national law, the companies are still legally required to comply with CSRD. So for the moment, nothing changes. What we heard yesterday was just a proposal. What we advise our customers and the industry is to stick with CSRD, even if it becomes voluntary. Even if you don't have to do it, we advise you to do it because it's a strategic tool and it's a gold standard for sustainability reporting. As Xavier showed, the big actors will report on it. They will have a trajectory, and they will ask all their suppliers, all their customers to fit in that trajectory. Also, it's crucial for your long-term resilience and your strategic planning. Even if the law doesn't force you to act, basically, everything else should push you to act and to reduce your emission and to try to be as sustainable as possible. There was a report from the World Economic Forum which showed that 25% to 50% of the world GDP could disappear by the end of the century due to all the risks we face, and that the companies who take action now will be the leaders of tomorrow. On the other hand, the companies who wait, passively, will suffer the most for all these changes. So we really advise all our stakeholders to keep working towards this goal, because it's really about protecting your company value and creating value for the future.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, also related to the policy words a bit, we have a question for Christoph, who asks if you think that with the new economy focused on policy, the new economy focused policy of the European Commission for the mandates on ESG will be loosened, maybe if it will be put in I don't know, in second place towards the more economic focused policies. What do you think about that?
So I think it will loosen the mandatory side. So for sure, like again, this is just a proposal. So probably now the European Parliament has to negotiate it. So we can expect the future to be in between what we have now and what we had in the proposal yesterday. So probably the companies that are above 500 employees will still have to report on CSRD. It will just be more. It will be lighter for small companies. Again, I think nothing changes on the side of the consumers. The consumers are still more and more looking towards sustainability measures and more likely to consume and to purchase products or services from companies which have the highest standards of sustainability. Nothing changes from the state of the planet. So the only thing that changes is that you might not have to do it. But again, we really believe that you should do it. It's in your very best interest, and if you look in the near future, there is no possibility at all that sustainability does not become the number one or number two priority for every business. So I think it's a pity that the European Commission has a lack of vision, strategic vision long term. But the companies should stick with this vision.
I see.
I
Thank you,
would
Paul.
agree. Yeah, I would agree, and to add, indeed, for something which has such an impact, potential impact on your company, meaning potentially disappear. For me, it's really important that any company at least look at what it is, how it works, how far is it from being even minus 50 or something versus scope 1, 2 minimum, because yeah, the risk is too high. So for me, not starting to dig into knowing that the risk is that high would be really something not reasonable.
I agree as well. I agree. And for that, the Eco Platform, for example, it's an amazing tool to start benchmarking our companies with the industry, but also with the standards, with the European standards. And about that, about the Eco Platform, I had a couple of questions relating, first of all, about the academy. Sabrina asked, when do you think will the academy start? I can take that question myself because I'm pleased to say that we will be starting the first academy session this April, and will run for the next 3 months after that. So if you're interested, you can contact us. Actually, you know what? Just put the QR code straight away here. So if you're already interested and wants to know more, this QR code will send you directly to the registration form of the Eco Platform. And the other question is related to the carbon intensity tool. I actually have those related to the carbon intensity tool. One is about its availability. So Matthew, where is the carbon intensity tool available? The answer to that question is that once you sign the contract, get involved in the Eco Platform initiative, you'll receive the tool from us, from the council directly. And the other questions is, go
Sophia?
ahead, Xavier. Yeah.
Yeah, just to say that this tool is a live tool because we know that this tool so far is something that was created during the pilot, and we know that the more members will get joining the platform, the more sophisticated we'll need to transform the tool. So indeed, so we'll have once a year a campaign in which we ask you to fill in that tool. So every year we will send you back this new tool, this updated tool.
Thank you, Javier. And since you're here, you can also answer these questions related to the carbon footprint of the industry. So Bernard asked so he said suppliers outside Europe are not constrained by CSRD, which makes it extremely difficult to address scope 3 properly. As an example, telcos is an electronics intensive industry, and this electronics is a real backhaul for carbon footprint, except that ESG very intensive. So how can we address such challenges? I think about counting the scope 3 emissions, even when companies are not required to report them.
Yes, so this is something we have been going through during the pilot. So I don't know whether the question is about a company having maybe a part of its operation maybe out of Europe, or but what we did is that we had some kind of ratios that was enabling us to make to cut what is coming from Europe, what is coming out from Europe, what is coming what is dealing with the fiber market, what is not dealing with the fiber market. So we try to include and exclude with ratios every time it's possible, because we need to do so. So sometimes we know it's not precise enough, but still it enables at least to start with something and to start moving on. But it's true that it's a worldwide issue, and we try here to cope with a European approach. So it's never easy to find the right balance. That's for true. And many times we will need to have discussions because, as Paul was mentioning, it's quite often a very specific case. So we need to discuss and to find how to solve this specific issue.
Thank you, Xavier. I do have one last question for you regarding the carbon intensity tool. So I'm asked whether there is an issue with double counting. What are the best practices? What best practices should companies follow to ensure accurate carbon footprint calculations while maintaining transparency and consistency across the value chain? How do we avoid the double counting thanks to this tool?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And you are talking about the sector observatory, because in this sector observatory, we are adding the carbon emission from every product. And each time we speak about the Scope 3, we speak about the whole value chain. So there was a risk that we double count. So what we did inside the tool, for each type of members or companies joining, whether they are vendors of passive, of cables, vendors of ducts, vendors of OLT, ONT, contractors. So we defined some types, and for each we defined what was needed to be counted inside the scope 1, 2, and 3. So we went into the subcategories, and to be sure that we would not double count. And for example, the use for electricity is something that was given, I would say, to the operator. So we were asking to the operator to count the electricity to use the equipments, although we were not asking the equipment vendors to do so. So it's inside the tool. You will see when you get the tool, there are some gray zone for which we do not ask you to fill in the tool, and to be sure that we'll not double count. So it's not 100% sure, but I think we succeed maybe like 95% to double count.
Thank you, Xavier. Yeah, I think that's an issue that it's pretty common in many industries, ours included. So thank you for that. And thank you everyone for all your questions coming in. We will make sure to answer all of you by email, of course. In the meantime, I'd like to wrap up this session. I wanted to thank you all and invite you also to join us at the FTTH Conference 2025, where we will be staying at booth B19 with the Eco Platform. You can join in, you can have a conversation with us from the Sustainability Committee, and Paul Minot as well from Tuvalu, and we can give you a demonstration of the tool as well. So I would also like to invite you to our next webinar session, which will be on March 13th, and which will be Unlock the Secrets to the Fiber Networks Planning and Design Process with IGEO. Again, I wanted to thank you all attendees and also all our panelists. Thank you very much for the great job we did today. And as I mentioned before, you have in these slides the QR codes to sign up directly and to send an email to the Eco Platform at the FTTH Council to know more about the platform and its offering. Thank you all for joining in.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you all,
Thank you.
and meet you in Amsterdam, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope to see